Good afternoon and welcome to this year's annual members meeting. Thank you all for taking the time to join us live or to view today's meeting at a later date. This year's annual members meeting is worth 6 continuing education credits, so please watch through to the end and complete the questions to receive your certificate of attendance. Today you hear from me on council updates, our CEO Wendy Dugas on updates from the operational side of our college, as well as our finance update. From there, our registrar, Tim Ford, will update us all on regulatory and core business activities before we move into the question and answer portion of the AMM. To help facilitate the submission of questions for you, we are again using Pigeonhole. If you haven't already signed in, please go to Pigeonhole at AT and use the password ABAMM2023. Please feel free to submit your questions and vote for questions throughout this afternoon's presentations. We have staff from the college who will help answer some of your questions in real time, while others will be answered during the question and answer panel at the end. As always, the questions with the most votes will be answered first, and any questions we are not able to get to today will be posted in the Pulse in the coming weeks. Pigeonhole will remain open until Tuesday for any questions you may think of after the AMM closes. This year marks my 5th year on council and first year as president. It has been a learning curve with its challenges and successes. Much of the council consists of long days and discussions trying to come to a decision that can better the profession. There are often a lot of moving parts going on behind the scenes, and this year was no different. In February, we released a newly approved strategic plan. Council spent a significant amount of time over the last year working on updating this plan from our previous version. It consists of our core ideology and will be used over the next 5 years to help guide the operations of the college. The plan includes our purpose, our mission, values, and our goals and objectives, which we will strive to reach while steering the profession forward. At the operational level, college administration will use this plan to set their operational and department goals each year. Areas we will strive to build on includes advancing the profession, building productive and collaborative relationships, and supporting our members' mental health and well-being. These are the areas we are working on every day. I would like to take this opportunity to update you on council recruitment process. This year was the first time we have utilized the new process of recruiting instead of the previous election format. The change was prompted for many reasons and was not decided on lightly by the council. After a thorough evaluation of the election format, we heard from you that the campaigning structure was daunting and many would not consider putting their names forward. Year after year, we witnessed a drop not only in nominations, but also in voter turnout. We also heard from the other colleges that were using the recruitment-based process and their experience moving away from elections. Ultimately, as a group, we made the choice to change to recruitment, and in March, we put out a call for applications seeking appointments for 3 council vacancies. To ensure a fair and objective process, the applications were vetted and shortlisted by a separate third-party human resources firm. I'm proud to announce that we received 15 applications for council. This is the most we received for any council vacancy in recent history. Each applicant had a variety of unique qualifications and experiences that would add significant value to council. This also made the shortlisting process very difficult. I'm very proud to see this new process open the door to having a whole new group of members join council who might have not previously applied. The next step in the process was to interview the shortlisted candidates. Council selected a small number of public and regulated council members to form a selection committee. These members worked with the HR consultant to interview candidates and will provide recommendations to council during the next meeting in June, where they'll be voting on new appointments. Once we have confirmed the new members, we will publish them in the Pulse. My final council update is one I'm very proud to share and of great importance for all members. We often hear concerns about the cost of registration fees, and I would like to use this time to address a few things. We received comments that our fees are the highest across the country, and in the province of Alberta, there are 30 other regulatory colleges with our registration fees, and we are among the 10 lowest. Nationally, there are 4 other provinces that have the same self-regulating structure as us, and we have the second lowest fee among these provinces. The registration fees are correlated to the structure and work required to regulate the profession the way we do. There are other provinces that have lower fees than us, but it is important to acknowledge that their EMS services are under a much different structure. In 2021, Council approved a decrease of $15, bringing the fees from $525 to $510. That year, we also provided a one-time credit of $15. I'm very proud to share that this year we have approved another decrease in the fees to $499 effective August 1st. It was imperative to Council that when providing a reduction, it can be maintained for years to come. With this decrease, we should also be able to maintain the fees at least phase for at least the next few years, even if we face some economic uncertainty. The College and Council are committed to fiscal responsibility, and as we move forward, we'll continue to monitor our finances and lower costs wherever possible. Wendy will also be providing a brief overview of the College finances as well. As I wrap up my first year as Council President and head into my final year in Council, I would like to share some personal insights about College and the Council. I joined Council like many do with a desire to tear the whole thing down and start fresh. I, like many other Council members, have come to realize that my desire was not reasonable or practical. I've learned a lot about the governance structure and Council's mandate. My understanding and viewpoint of the work that is done in that room has shifted dramatically, and I'm very proud of everything we've accomplished over the years. It is our job to work in the public's best interest, and also, I understand that this is often an area of contention. As members, it can feel as though the College doesn't do anything for you. What I have learned is that very often the public's best interest also serves the members' best interest as well. I can assure you that Council is filled with dedicated individuals working tirelessly to move the profession forward for the public and for you when we can. I'd like to extend a sincere thank you to all my fellow Council members, colleagues, and everyone I've worked alongside to get to where I am today. I look forward to seeing where this next year takes us and the profession. I'm very confident in the changes being made and the people working hard to make them happen. With that, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in, and I will pass it off to Wendy to give an operational update.
Thank you, Travis. The College operations continue to run smoothly and effectively. Last year, we launched a new member portal, Alinity. It was implemented in a staggered approach to ensure a smooth transition so that minor bugs could be worked out effectively. We have now completed all phases of the transition and continue to work to address any areas of concern. We are happy to report that overall, the first year with the new system was incredibly successful, and the majority of members feel the same according to the most recent member survey. In the survey, we asked questions about the transition and how members felt about the portal. We also asked what else you would like to see in the member portal and received many positive and constructive comments. We have read through them all and will do our best to provide the information and features that we can to continue to improve the system. The member website was launched in August of last year and is a helpful resource where members can find all the information related to their practice. We are continuing to develop this area and are working to expand information on continuing competence and practice. If you have suggestions for information that would be of interest, please email us at communications@abparamedics.com. We continue to receive positive and constructive feedback on the portal and the member website, and your comments are always appreciated. Last year was the first renewal period using Alinity, and although there were some minor hiccups, the process went smoothly. As we approach renewal this year, the College has been working to iron out any kinks and is confident that these issues have all been resolved. The process has not changed. You will still need to complete the 3-step application consisting of the profile update, continuing competence record, and the professional responsibilities and declaration acknowledgement. Members will also need to ensure their professional liability insurance does not expire on or before October 1st, 2023. If it does, you will be required to provide updated insurance information in order to complete the application. As always, we are here to help you with any issues. Members can email or call the office, and we will also be utilizing a live chat on the website during office hours throughout renewal. We initiated the chat function last year and found it a helpful resource for you to easily contact us. Keep an eye out for the chat box, and one of our staff members will be able to give you some guidance if you need it. Over the last couple of years, we have worked hard to adapt to legislative changes that have come down the pipeline. Most recently, the college staff has worked to ensure full compliance with all legislative changes prior to the writ being dropped for this election. As you may have noticed, 3 new standards were sent out for consultation over the past 7 months. We appreciate and thank every member that participated and provided feedback. It was reviewed thoroughly and incorporated wherever possible. These standards have since been approved by Council, and the restricted activities, continuing competence, and prohibited medical procedure standards are all in place. Additionally, policy changes and updated bylaws were created and approved. This ensures the college is fully compliant with Bill 46 and Bill 10. The college has been operating at a surplus over the past few years, which was required to establish the reserve fund goal set by Council. The purpose of this reserve fund is to stabilize the organization's financial position in the event of economic uncertainty. As a result of significant efforts by all staff members to operate as fiscally conservative as possible, we are in a position where we have fully reached the reserve goal for the organization. As Travis mentioned earlier, this has also put us in a financial position to reduce the registration fees for the upcoming year to $499. We are proud to be able to offer this reduction, and it was important to everyone that this could be maintained moving forward with no expected increases for the next couple of years. In a time where every expense seems to be drastically increasing, the college continues to work at reducing expenses, and this has given us the ability to lower your fees by $26 over the past 3 years from the old fee of $525. We are committed to continuing to manage finances in the most responsible way possible without compromising our ability to serve the membership and the public with the best quality service that they deserve. A full overview of the college's financial position is included in the annual report, which can be found on our website. Earlier, I mentioned some of the feedback we received in the member survey, and I would like to share some more stats with you now. In March, we distributed the 4th member survey. We are committed to conducting these surveys every 2 years, and the responses are used wherever possible to help guide future planning. The questions, much like in previous years, were used to gain an understanding of member satisfaction while we continue to work towards positive change. The survey was sent out to all active practitioners at the same time. Of those who responded, more than half of the respondents found the renewal process was easy or very easy. 76% indicated that they feel adequately informed about the college's regulatory processes. And of those who indicated they did not feel informed, the continuing competence program and the conduct process were the 2 main areas of confusion. Of those who said they've been in contact with the college in the last year, almost 80% rated the level of service as good to excellent, and 75% said the timeliness was also good to excellent. These areas have shown positive change since the first survey in 2017, and we will continue to work to improve these areas each year. These are just some of the findings from the survey, but we will be providing a full summary in an upcoming issue of the Pulse. One exciting finding from the survey is that the overall satisfaction rating for the college is up from 2021. The previous overall satisfaction rating for the college sat at just over 75% as neutral to very satisfied. This year, the overall satisfaction rating for the college increased to over 80%. I'm excited to see the progress and improvements that have been made over the last few years. When I joined the college, there were many major issues at hand, and I'm proud of all the hard work of the college staff and council, which has led to the improved satisfaction levels and the organizational efficiencies, making it possible to lower member fees this year. It is my ongoing commitment that the college continues to strive for the best possible service for our regulated members so that you can deliver excellent service to Albertans. I encourage you to continue to share your feedback with us so that we can work together wherever possible. With that, I would like to thank everyone for tuning in and welcome Tim to present an update on the regulatory side of the college.
Thank you, Wendy. I will start as I usually do and give an update on our membership numbers. As of May 1st, we have 3,085 ACPs, 4,142 PCPs, and 1,391 EMRs registered, putting us at a total of 8,618 practitioners. This is about 150 more practitioners versus this time last year and should put us on pace for approximately 9,000 members at the year's end. This is very encouraging. When we consider all of the demands that our profession has faced over the past few years and the areas of practice that we continue to expand into, it's super important that our profession grows as well. That said, I would like to touch on one area where you all can help with this, and that's practicums and precepting. I suspect many, if not all of you, remember how important your practicum placements were in your early development. These practicums remain an integral part of paramedic education, and it's imperative that we have members who are competent and willing to take on these students. In our most recent member survey, we asked you what would incentivize you to take on a student, and many of the respondents said that they did not feel properly prepared to do so. To address this, I want to remind you that there are currently 2 preceptor training courses which are available for continuing education credits. One is through NATE and is a 6-hour course approved for 18 credits. The other is a 20-hour course offered through SATE for 60 credits. These are listed on the approved CE list in your member portal. Also, I want to remind you that not only can you get CE credits for preceptor training, but preceptors can also claim up to 30 self-directed credits for each student that you take. Additionally, Competence Committee recently amended this to include both the primary and the secondary preceptor. So there are lots of continuing competence credits available for precepting. Thank you to those who already regularly take students. With the funding that has been provided by the provincial government, we have to work with educational institutions to ensure that they can continue to meet the demands of the workforce. Increasing practicum availability will be crucial in meeting this goal. As you may know, the college has been working with PCP program providers to ensure that the curriculum is more closely aligned with the restricted activities that were authorized to us under the Health Professions Restricted Activity Regulation. This enhanced scope of practice will allow us to remove some conditions and add endorsements to PCP practice permits, in turn expanding their scope of practice. All PCP education programs were required to have incorporated these skills into their curriculum. And by the end of this year, every graduate from an Alberta PCP program will be trained to this newly expanded scope of practice. For currently registered PCPs wanting to access this training, there are 3 education providers who have developed a variety of course options to address this, and these courses were made available last year. Since then, more than half of the currently registered PCPs have completed the approved training and can now work to this expanded scope, which brings us more in line with what other jurisdictions are allowing PCPs to do. Important pieces are falling into place at a national level. As you may know, much work has been done to harmonize the profession nationally, both by the Paramedic Association of Canada and by the Canadian Organization of Paramedic Regulators. Now, you are likely aware that for years, paramedic educational curriculum has been based off the 2011 National Occupational Competency Profile from PAC. But this document has become stale and no longer reflects current practice. PAC has started work to develop a National Occupational Standards Profile, which we believe should be completed in early 2024. COPPR is just completing their work on the Pan-Canadian Essential Regulatory Requirements project, and the new Competency Framework and Standards Profile have been completed and recently approved by the COPPR Board of Directors. COPPR is now in the final stages of approving educational and exam resources for this competency framework, and the entire document suite will be made publicly available in September of this year. I should add that the new competency framework provides a significant amount of clarity around the CCP scope of practice, and it'll be vital in guiding our college towards defining this designation. Last year, we were invited to join the Alberta EMS Provincial Advisory Committee, which was convened to address major strains on the EMS system. Many of you voiced your concerns through town hall meetings and surveys, and the committee heard what you had to say. They incorporated your feedback into 53 recommendations, which were submitted to Minister Copping. And in January of this year, the Minister committed to addressing all of them. There were a number of recommendations that do not directly impact the college. However, we continue to do what we can to support these initiatives wherever possible. A good example of this would be the recent initiative regarding the 45-minute turnaround time for EMS crews at emergency departments. While the college cannot directly impact this initiative, we were asked to provide clear guidance on the regulatory implications related to transfer of care, documentation, and waiting room download guidelines. I have heard through the grapevine that initiatives like this have been somewhat successful, and I'd be interested in hearing more from members if this is working or not. I would like to take a few minutes to talk about the Continuing Competence Program. Each year, you are required to achieve 60 credits in order to renew in the fall. A minimum of 30 credits must be obtained by taking approved continuing education, or CE activities, with the remainder of the credits achieved through self-directed activities. In our member survey this year, 75% of respondents said they did not have any problems completing the CC requirements. Of the other 25% that did, the biggest concerns came down to time, money, and confusion over what is approved for CE credits. Let me try and address this. So, where can you find a list of approved CE courses? Well, the college has a full list of courses available and accessible through your member portal. There is large variety of over 1,000 courses, ranging from 3 credits to the full 60 credits. The Competence Committee also approves new courses for CE credits regularly. If you think a course should be approved, you can fill out the application on the website and the committee will review it. As for the time commitment, the Continuing Competence Program is split between CE courses, which are rated at 3 credits per hour, meaning if you did 20 hours of an approved course, you would meet your obligation. Self-directed training is just that. It can be any course that you feel is relevant to your practice, but not on the approved CE list. Our program only allows for 30 self-directed credits, so you would still be required to do an additional 10 hours of an approved CE course to reach the full 60 credits you require. And you have 12 months to do anywhere between 20 and 40 hours of professional development. It is a requirement under the HPA, and I believe the way that we have set up this program can be achieved with just a little time management. As for the barrier of cost, we recognize that some of the approved courses cost more than others, but some cost no money at all. We do have a list of free online courses on our website, which was most recently updated a few weeks ago and was distributed in the Pulse. We also have a list of approved providers who offer courses through subscription payments for a yearly or monthly rate. And you can have access to even more courses to tailor your learning. Finally, I would like to share a great opportunity available to all members. Wayfound Mental Health Group offers a course called Before Operational Stress. It was developed in Alberta for first responders and focuses on stress, burnout, and mental health. This course is approved for 24 CE credits and recently received an extension of federal funding to add more seats. They have roughly 10,000 spaces available to provide this course for free. Now, you must register before June 30th to get access to a free space, but you have until December 31st to complete the course. This is a great opportunity for anyone still looking for credits for this year. For anyone who has already completed their credit requirement for this year, you can register for this course now, and if you complete it between October 1st and December 31st, you can use these credits for the next registration year. I strongly encourage all of you to give this some consideration. Not only is it a great option for CE credits at no cost, but most importantly, it's a very thorough course that does a great job at addressing some of the stressors. The registration link or QR code is on the screen, and you can always contact the college for it. Before moving on, I would like to briefly address the most recent CC audit, which was concluded in February. This year, we selected 320 members to participate and had a 91% success rate. I am proud to see this as an increase from last audit, and I am hopeful it will continue to increase year after year. The next audit is planned for November 2023, and the Competence Committee will be increasing participants to 500 members for the next audit. To those of you who were selected for the audit and participated, I want to thank you for helping us meet this regulatory mandate. I will close by saying that this has been a big year for the college and its members. As Travis mentioned, the college continues to increase its efficiency, which resulted in the second fee decrease in the past 4 years. The move to appointment-based council resulted in a record high number of qualified candidates. And the provincial government has turned its eye on our profession and recognized the need to provide resources and guidance, which will lead to an increase in healthy practitioners ready to care for Albertans. I know the daily stressors remain high, and there is no one silver bullet that will fix everything all at once. But I do believe the pendulum is slowly swinging back, and I hope you all feel the positive impacts from some of these changes. Thank you for tuning in and listening to our AMM. We will now take a short break to set up for our Q&A session. I know the questions have been coming in as we've been providing our updates, so now it's your turn to be heard. We will answer questions with the highest votes first, so please vote for your top questions.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We will address some of the questions that were asked through Pigeonhole. The questions with the highest number of votes will go first. And the first question is, what are the college's plans to develop and use the CCP title and scope? I think Tim will be the best one to answer that.
Yeah, so this is, I just alluded to it a little bit in my speech, but before we went down this path of critical care paramedic, there's a lot of work being done nationally to clearly define scopes of practice for all the designations. We felt it was prudent to wait for this work to be done so that we develop something that is in alignment with the rest of Canada. It makes for labor mobility much easier, and it will clearly define what the restrict activities that will be assigned to that. Once those documents are done, and as I mentioned, the copper document will be announced to the public in September. The PAC document should be late 2023 or early 2024. And once we have this and have a full idea of what the scope will entail, we will then begin the work to change our regulations and amend our regulations to reflect that scope. So We're not far off from understanding what the national picture will look like, and then once we have that, we'll move on to amending our regs. All right, so next question. What is the college's plans to push paramedicine forward as a whole, utilizing PCPs and ACPs in other settings outside of ground ambulance? You guys want to take a crack at that?
Sure. So I assume that the person asking the question or voting are looking at places non-traditionally like hospitals or in other settings that are outside the typical ground environment. Well, from my understanding, there's no real plans for the college to push paramedicine out into the other industries. We are very adaptable when they are pushed upon us or they are presented to us. So while we may not go out and actively seek positions in other parts of healthcare that are typically paramedic related, we definitely will adapt when those are presented to our practitioners, and we'll do our best to sort of get ourselves into those situations.
Yeah, a great example of that was, through the pandemic, there was a request to get PCPs into a sort of a clinic type environment for vaccine administration and testing. So we felt that we were pretty adaptable there and were able to manage that piece. And so when the request comes to us, we will try and adapt and make it happen. All right. Will the college ever adopt an ID-style registration card similar to BC? The paper one seems very easy to forge, damage, and relies heavily on someone verifying on the website.
I can maybe start on that. I'm not familiar with the BC card. We've made a very conscious decision that the card that is generated only contains public information. If we were to ever consider a more formal ID card, I think it would be a complex process where now we're dealing with privacy concerns. How do we actually bring that to the members? So it isn't something that we're planning on or have looked into as of yet. As far as the need to verify people on the website, that is actually what we want. That is the most secure way of making sure that a member is actually registered and eligible to work. So I think that is a best practice that should always be followed no matter what. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I believe BC's card is that hard plastic, just like a credit card type of thing. I think, and we're discussing, is probably you can forge just about anything. Our paper or thin plastic cards that we issue, could be forged, I suppose. So could those other cards. But really, the point to take home here is the website is the best place to verify a member. That's the source of truth. Mm-hmm. All right. Will the college ever add a non-practicing license with a lower fee? Maybe I'll take this one. The answer is pretty much, at this time, no. Our regs allow for a general registration, courtesy registration, and provisional registration. We don't have a non-practicing permit type. So it would be a regulation change. And then I think that the other question would be, I'm not sure what the purpose for that would be. It would require a reg change, and then we'd have to have a really good reason to make that change. So I think the short answer there is no.
Is there mandatory CC training? Not for this cycle.
Right.
So there is no worry about a mandatory module for this upcoming cycle.
Yeah. All right. Is there any planning for EMR, PCP, and ACP to increase scope of practice like other provinces like BC or Saskatchewan? Well, PCP, I alluded in my speech that we have expanded the PCP scope of practice to more closely reflect other provinces. BC's recent changes kind of came as a bit of a surprise. There's some significant changes there that I'm not sure BC even is fully sure how to address. But getting back to the two national documents that are coming out that will more clearly define scope of practice for all designations, once those two documents are released, the copper document and the PAC document, we'll have a look and see where any gaps lie between our current practice in Alberta and where these documents are headed. And if there are scope increases or expansions, we'll use those as reference. I'm not sure we will look to do precisely what BC is doing. They do have 6 designations in BC. It's so it is a different regulatory structure. So it's not quite the same, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Again, waiting on the 2 national documents to get that out.
So the next question is the college able to influence the dates of the copper exams? More exam dates would be helpful for getting more practitioners into the profession. I think this is right up your alley, Tim.
All right. To some degree, the answer is yes. So I'll just remind everyone, it wasn't too long ago that we had 3 offerings per year. And moving to the copper exam, that increased to 4 offerings. In the 2024 cycle, that'll be moving to 5 offerings per year. I'm not sure they could get it much more or that many more offerings than 5 per year. Perhaps with more staff, and it could get to 6, but I don't think that it'll get any more than 5. But it will go to 5 in 2024.
All right, I'll read the next question. I think it's for Tim, but then he can take a second to think about the answer. How does or can the college plan to intervene in the practicum competency issues with schools in Alberta? It seems with the limited oversight and follow-up for accreditation and competency, there are some large gaps in documentation versus practice in their student flow.
Well, this is a good one. So practicums are certainly an issue, and there is a lot of work being done right now to address practicum spot availability. As far as identifying competency and gaps in documentation versus practice, I think the one thing that we've done that might address this, we've approved 2 practicum training programs, preceptor training programs that can help preceptors understand what's required from the different schools and what's required to be successful on a practicum. The documentation component, I'm not sure how to address this. Maybe what I'll say is I can get back to this. I'll see if I can understand it a little bit more and read it a few times, but I'm not sure that the gap in documentation is a piece I understand there. All right. Can the college describe any work, regulatory or education standards-wise, around the role and scope of community paramedicine? Me again, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't. It isn't a designation. So when I look at regulatory, it makes me think of our regs and where community paramedicine sits within our regs. And really, community paramedicine is more of a practice setting than it is a designation. Again, referring back to what's happening nationally, recognizing a community paramedic as a designation isn't something that looks to be on the horizon. So we'd be looking at it just as a practice setting. So what education is going into this as a practice setting? Again, that would depend on the employer. What kind of education the employer feels is necessary around that practice setting. I can say that we meet monthly with our AHS counterparts in the MIH group to discuss any changes or expansions or specific care protocols they want to develop to ensure that they are aligned with our regs. To the education piece, I don't see the college pushing a community care paramedic education program. it's not recognized in the regs. It is a practice setting, not a designation.
Sure. Can the college describe its anticipated role in the implementation of the updated NOCPs, the National Occupational Standards for Paramedics, and what it sees as the most exciting or challenging pieces for the profession and regulation as we move forward? Tim, what do you see as our role?
Well, our role, as most of you know, current curriculum is built off of the 2011 NOCPs. That is getting updated and it's going to become the NOSPs. Because it is an association-led activity and because of Bill 46, we're not involved with associations as much as we once were. So I personally haven't seen the NOSPs. I think our role, though, when it rolls out, is to look at the copper competency framework that's being developed, and determine how best to first how these documents can work together, and then take both of those and determine how we can influence or impact curriculum. That is an area where we have regulatory oversight, is the curriculum aspect of this. So I think the best answer is we have to see what the NOSPs look like. And I'm just not privy to that information until it's released. I might add by saying that the project leads on the copper project and the PAC project have been in constant communication through this whole process. And so the concept is just to have complementary documents. So my hope is that that is realized and that we can take both of these documents, look at where curriculum is, where it needs to go based on these documents, and then we can implement the changes with our educational stakeholders.
Okay, I'll read the next question. Maybe this is one that's perfectly suited to Travis here. Can military QL5 medics be considered for an ACP license instead of the PCP license due to the nature of what they learn as a QL5 military medic? I know you have a military background, Travis. I'm not sure if you are completely familiar with the training.
It's been a while since I took any form of military training related to the medic role, and I know that being in contact with military members still, as the role keeps changing and advancing, it'd be no different than I would believe the PCP skills and the ACP skills that we keep promoting and pushing ahead. Without seeing the actual breakdown or the rubric of the QL5 course, I think it would be really tough to say off the top of our heads whether or not they could challenge the exams. Mm-hmm. But we could definitely, if you could provide us with a copy of the QL5 makeup of the course that's offered, I believe that Tim's group should be able to review that and see if a new certification could be allowed.
Well, actually, I can add to that a little bit. There is, again, with these, I keep referring back to the national projects, but the Department of National Defense was involved and remains involved in contributing to the new competency framework. And there is definitely some areas that overlap. There's some areas that exceed, but there are some gaps. And in the military training to the advanced care paramedic training. So I think across Canada, the QL5 medic is recognized as PCP, and we grant that currently as PCP. What those gaps to move to ACP would be and how those gaps can be obtained still needs some looking into and some work.
Regarding the expansion of PCP scope, it is great to align federally with recent expansions and all other expansions and responsibilities over the last 20+ years. Is not the Ontario model of a 2-year PCP program more appropriate? The answer might be yes. Okay.
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Conceptually, the answer is yes. I know that the scope of a PCP is expanded. We've expanded ours, and potentially it's going to expand more. And we look at what the other provinces are doing, and certainly Ontario has got the 2-year program, and for the most part. And I would like to see, I think. So I got my own opinion on this, and then I know I'm going to I'm going to express, where the challenges are. I think you're right. We have more PCPs on the road. They do a majority of the work. I think nationally there's 33,000 PCPs and only 5,700 ACPs. So we have a lot more PCPs providing care than we do ACPs. And if we could probably wipe the slate clean and start this all over, we might want to build a 2-year PCP paramedic program that an ACP and a CCP is built off of. That transition in reality is a lot trickier to just implement. There is no waving of a wand and starting over. Doing something like that might lead to shortages in the workforce. It would lead to a lot of gap training that would have to be delivered. So I think it's the right model. There's challenges in doing it. And we don't have all the authority in this area too. You have Alberta Advanced Education that then chimes in. There's different, potentially a different credential that, or a document that gets issued with the completion of these programs. So it is, it would take, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it would take a significant amount of effort to do this. And then the last component of this is, I think back to not so long ago, if we made our program in Alberta 2 years and BC continues to have a 4-month PCP program, and labor mobility being what it is, would we see PCPs taking a 4-month course in BC, getting registered in labor mobility back to Alberta, thereby sort of nullifying the whole work that we're doing? This labor mobility piece is really, sort of one of the pieces I keep going back to, but I think it's important that we set the bar nationally so that we are all doing the same thing, and we can then move forward as a group. Yeah, I think it would be ideal to see a longer PCP program. We just are going to have to work. Quite a bit of work goes into making that happen. Sorry, that's a long-winded one.
The next question is, the college should offer lifetime membership to members who have been active with the college for a substantial time. For example, 20 plus years. Lifetime continued learning designation due to experience. Wendy?
I'll try to take a crack at this one, and then maybe Tim can jump in. When it comes to a permit, I think the legislation says you have to pay prior to practicing. So there isn't really in the legislation even an opportunity, if you are a practicing paramedic, to not pay for your permit. We used to actually have an honorary membership, and due to some of the legislative changes, Bill 46 that Tim just mentioned, that is now considered an association type activity. So we can't really have a register, like an honorary register for people that don't pay. And I fully respect that after 20 years, you have an incredible amount of knowledge and a lot of learning, but learning is an ongoing thing. And I don't know if we can ever say, if you've been in a profession for 20 some years, that you shouldn't continue to learn, if I am understanding the question correctly. So I don't really know how we would manage this. It just isn't possible in the current legislation. And again, like after 20 years, some people might still have more than 10 years left in their career. And I think, again, for the safety of the public, it might not be advisable that we absolve them from any continued learning.
Yeah, I can't think of any other professions that might do it that way. And that's probably due to the HPA.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Is there still intent to increase PCP courses to a 2-year associate's degree program, or transition the EMR designation to an OHS occupational OFA 3 type certificate? Well, I just spoke to the maybe the 2-year PCP program, so I won't flog that horse again. But I don't think there was ever a desire to transition the EMR designation to OFA 3. Certainly not in our time here. So
No, and OFAs are not regulated, I think, right? And EMRs are, so we see the benefit of that.
Right, and we are required to regulate EMRs under our regs, so we can't really change their designation or change their certification type.
What's the average duration of active registration for an ACP, PCP, EMR? Has that number been increasing or decreasing over time? Has there been an increase in departures from paramedicine given the high workload burnout?
I don't think I have an answer to the first part of the question. But as far as our overall numbers, so we have, through attrition or whatever the reason, we don't ask why people give up their licenses, but between 450 and 600 per year leave the profession. Our educational programs put into the workforce about the same amount, 450 to 600 per year. So our number has been staying. If you look back at our annual reports, we were at 9,000 for a bit in 2017, 2018. We dipped to 8,600, and we're probably on track for 9,000 again this year. So the departures, we haven't seen it, the numbers decreasing, but the average duration of an active registration, we can probably get that data. It just, I don't have it at our fingertips.
Can the college comment on its role and next steps in implementation of the PERS project, essential regulatory requirements for paramedics?
Our role is we have one more document. As Copper, and as you know, I'm involved with Copper. I sit on the board. The board at Copper has one more documents or set of documents to approve, and that's educational exam resources. Those should be approved in August. The whole suite will then be made public in September. And then our role for implementing them is to look at our educational curriculum where it currently is, as it's based off the 2011 competencies, draw lines over to the new competency profile, identify where there's gaps, and identify where there's changes, and sit down with our educators. We have a quarterly meetings with our educators group, and we'd sit down with them and develop a plan to implement any changes to the curriculum. And I think that it's probably safe to say we'd through that process, the PAC document should come out, and hopefully that can be complementary, and we can see how we can integrate both documents into our curriculum changes.
Can the college please describe what work to date and what work may be planned to support the implementation of the Code of Conduct into practice, education, what accountability looks like, etc.?
Well, I think this falls into conduct. Our Code of Conduct, I would assume that the writer is asking about our Code of Ethics. So our Code of Ethics is something that we hold all of our practitioners to. We do that through our conduct department's processes.
And really a practitioner is obligated, for lack of nicer language, to be familiar with the Code of Ethics and understand what's in the Code of Ethics. So how to move that into practice, I'm not sure. It's just an element I think that people have to know.
Yeah, there is something on the horizon that might touch on this, and we're taking our ethics and jurisprudence exam, and we're making it, we're expanding it somewhat and making it available to practitioners. So it's a kind of a, you could call it your yearly review of our Code of Ethics, standards of practice, bylaws, all the regulatory and legislative requirements, and that'll be made available. There will be, there's intent to have CE credits for that. So if maybe that is
yeah, that might help.
Answer
Otherwise, send us an email, clarify the question, and we'll answer that offline for sure. Explain probationary practitioners why they can practice after failing the Copper exam and why they work under a registered practitioner's RO without identifying to the practitioner they are probationary?
I can do this one. So it's not probationary so much as it's provisional. That's the name of the register that they're on. You can be placed on the provisional register once you've completed your education. And while you're waiting to write the copper exam, you can practice. But it is the provisional practitioner's responsibility to ensure that their employer and their, the people they work with are understanding that they are probationary or provisional. And what that means is they can, the restricted activities that are granted to that designation must be performed under supervision. So, for a PCP starting an IV or an ACP intubating, those are restricted activities that must be supervised. And it is the responsibility of the provisional member to let their employers and partners know that they need supervision for that.
Would it be better if intermediate life support, ILS, be considered as a scope of practice between BLS, which is the EMR and PCP, and ALS, the ACP, or would this complicate the matter? Tim?
It would complicate the matter. And the reason I say that is our regs clearly define the three designations that we can recognize. It's EMR, PCP, and ACP. So inserting another category of designation in there, let's call it ILS, even if we had the, and we do have the ability, when we can go to the government, we can push for a regulation change. And even if we had the desire to do it, to recognize a ILS designation, it won't align with any other province. Where, let's say that practitioner then wants to go work in Saskatchewan where ILS is not a thing, it would have no meaning in any other jurisdiction. So no, it definitely would complicate things, and we want to keep it to EMR, PCP, ACP, and one day CCP.
Perfect.
With the need for preceptors, has the college looked into incentives to make it more attractive? I definitely know some things are happening, and I do know that credits are now available for secondary preceptors. I think they are CE credits.
SDs.
Oh, sorry, SDs. And then there is a working group, so maybe, Tim, you can elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. All right. So we've got preceptor training approved for Con Ed or the CE credits. Those are the ones that are 3 credits per hour. We also grant credits, self-directed credits, up to 30 for taking a student, for the preceptor who takes the student. Recently, as I mentioned, the Competence Committee is granting credits for the secondary preceptor to also get 30 credits for self-directed credits for taking a student. Other ways to incentivize it. Well, we can't financially incentivize it. That that would be difficult. But the addition of the secondary preceptor granting CE credits for training, I think is one step, and then we are really working with our stakeholders in our employers, AHS, the contracted providers, and government, the Emergency Health Services Department, to explore what else can be done to further incentivize this. We've just had maybe the first couple of meetings on this, and trying to dig down into what the barriers are and what some solutions might be, but we're looking to try and do what we can to make it more attractive for preceptors to take on students. All right. I find the Con Ed portal very confusing to navigate. Is there a way to further streamline the site to make it more intuitive and straightforward? Well,
to a degree.
To a
maybe.
degree.
Yeah.
There's a Con Ed list. You can access it from the portal. There's 1,100 courses on it. It is cumbersome, but there's also been a lot of comments we got over the years of not having enough Con Ed available. So we did our part and really pushed, and the competence committee has been great, reviewing programs and approving where they can and making sure they meet some standards. So we've got a large list there now. I agree, it's cumbersome, but in the drop-down menu, when you're going to enter those credits, there is a way to select, and it does help filter. There may be a way to put a filter on that list, but or to make it so it's more searchable. But you can search it just through the title. So if you know you're doing ACLS, you could put in ACLS or advanced care, and it will populate it. So.
Yeah, and I would say feel free to contact our team at the college. We're always happy to help. I do know that there were certain search criteria. It can probably get a little finicky. But yeah, it is like that is the software that we use. And so there's very limited opportunity to kind of tweak that. But we are always interested in hearing feedback and trying to make it better.
For first-time users, is the video still available that they can use to watch the process?
There was a registration video that we did last year. We are actually working on a continuing competence video, so it should be ready before renewal and should definitely be another tool for members to access.
Great. Is there additional training for vaccine administration? No. There is just the training that has been already approved, and that should be available, or that is available through our practice department and listed in our continuing education list.
Okay, time's up.
Oh,
Okay.
I just got word
All
that
right.
we're
out of
hit 2
time for
o'clock.
today. If there are any questions that we didn't answer, we will take those questions and answer them in a future edition of the Pulse, so please keep your eyes out for that. There are questions at the end of this meeting that you can complete to also obtain a certificate for your CC credit, so please take a moment to answer those questions. And thank you everybody for attending. We greatly appreciate it.